Welcome back to the Midday Reset. My name is Antoinette, and thanks for taking a break with me today. Everyday life can get stressful as we move through responsibilities and commitments, and it's nice to take a break or two. This Midday Reset is meant to serve as a mini mental vacation for your brain as you deal with it all. Let's start by clearing our space with a nice deep breath in and out. Again. In and out. Once more. In and out. This episode is the third installment of a 3-part episode arc titled The Good Day Series. And as the title implies, I've covered here some tips for setting yourself up for a good day. There's actually more to it than we're often aware of. Plus, good days lead to achievements, a positive outlook, and good weeks. We covered the morning hours in Part 1 and strategies for moving through the afternoon in Part 2, and now it's time to wrap up by detailing how to best wrap up your day for a good night's sleep and a brighter morning the following day. So to start off, I want you to remember that routines are still important even at the end of the day. You still need to keep a good grasp on your time. Even though work is finished, you're finally back home and it's time to just kind of wind down, and there's not a whole lot of obligation that we have in the evening, or so we think most of the time, but that's actually very misleading, and this is where some of us are going wrong with setting ourselves up for having good days the following day. It's the evening routine that sort of messes us up. If you don't plan well, you could end up retiring to bed really late, and that could mess you up for the following morning. It's a good idea to make sure that you are allotting time for yourself to get adequate rest. Otherwise, you could end up being really tired the next day, and then that leads to problems the next day. Speaking of which, honoring a bedtime is a great way to implement a routine for your evenings. You need to get dinner, bathing, tending to the kids or any pets, any small loose ends that you have to tie up at the end of the day. You need to get all of those done in time for you to retire to bed early enough to allow yourself to get adequate rest. It's a good idea also to make sure that you slow some other things down in the evening as well. Evenings should be low impact, calm energy times. This is a good time to read a book or write in your journal. I know that television is a really big part of the evening routine, especially for people who like to watch those specifically programmed shows for the evening, like Jeopardy. Like Jeopardy is one of those shows that comes on at a time where you're supposed to be watching this after dinner, or Wheel of Fortune, which comes on before Jeopardy. You know, those are shows that families typically come together to watch together in the evening. So I'm not saying that television shouldn't be a part of your evening routine, but you want to be careful with how you treat television. So you don't want to watch too much TV close to when you plan to go to bed. I think that the recommendation is that you should stop interacting with any screens. So this is a television screen as well as a cell phone or a tablet or a computer screen. You should stop using all of those devices and looking at those screens at least 30 minutes before you plan to retire to bed. I personally find that I get better results if I increase that to an hour. So I try to make sure that I've concluded all of my usage of my devices at least an hour before I go to bed. Now, I don't do this all the time, but I can tell you that I can see the difference when I honor this and I stop using technology and then head to bed about an hour later. I tend to fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer. Whereas if I'm interacting with my phone or with my tablet or, playing around on the computer late at night, then usually that kind of triggers my brain to just be more active and I'm thinking about things. And you really want to train your brain. If you're having a problem with sleeping, you want to train your brain to let some of those thoughts go, let those thoughts leave you until the morning, so that you can concentrate just on your sleep and just resting and kind of going dormant for a little while in order to get the most out of your rest. Another thing is that you shouldn't exercise close to bedtime. It could rile you up and keep you from sleeping. So I know that for some folks, they will say that, they're usually out of energy after they finish exercising. But the thing is that adrenaline pump and those endorphins that you get from physical activity, even when we don't want to do it, a lot of us don't want to do our workout before we get into it. But then when we get about 5 or 6 minutes into the workout, then suddenly it's like, okay, this is wonderful. I'm glad I did this. And you get a nice sweat out. You get some good stretching in. You lift some weights. You do some cardio. But all of those endorphins and that adrenaline and the way that your body sort of perks up for exercise, that could actually keep you from getting a good night's rest as well, because it'll be harder for you to calm down later. So there's been a lot of literature published on like how much time you should build in between your exercise and when you decide to go to bed, in the same way that there is a suggested window of time that you build in with technology and going to bed. So for me, I would say that 2 hours is a good idea. 2 hours between finishing your workout and then when you decide to retire. I think that that is a good rule of thumb to have, so that you have an opportunity to not only clean yourself off and wind down from the workout that you just did, but also to kind of let your body return back to that sort of resting, pre-dormant state that you get into right before you're about to fall asleep. Try to finish dinner at least an hour before you plan to retire, and also try to keep your dinner balanced and practice portion control. So if you're super overstuffed, like a lot of us get for Thanksgiving, for instance, eating a really big meal like that, it's all delicious and yummy, and we stuff ourselves so much, and then we're usually pretty tired at that point. We could lay down and take a nap at that point, but that's not going to be good for long-term health for you. If you're eating gigantic meals and then retiring to bed immediately, then you invite the tendency to gain weight, especially if you're eating things that are very carb heavy. Also, it's just not a good idea to put your digestion and your sleep so close together, because you're sort of asking your body to go to bed, but then also stay active and digest this food that I just gave you. So it's a good idea to give yourself some time between dinner, between exercise, between technology. You really want to honor bedtime as being sort of a sacred window in which you just kind of relax and wind down. It's very low energy, very calm and quiet, so that you can drift off to sleep and get a good night's sleep so that you're prepared for the next day. If you need additional help with falling asleep, which is something that I have a problem with on a regular basis, I recommend that you try some guided meditation to help you relax into sleep, sort of train your mind into going into that dormant state so that your mind isn't racing and thinking lots of thoughts constantly, which can keep you awake. Also, chamomile tea helps. Sipping on that before you go to bed and having that closer to your bedtime, that's not going to be as much of an interference as if you were eating like a big chicken dinner or something before you go to bed. And then also melatonin is very helpful too if you need another sleep aid to help encourage sleep. Try not to think of nighttime and after work time and after the kids are in bed time as extra time to work. I know it's really tempting, and some chores or tasks just simply can't be avoided. They just have to get done after the family goes to sleep, after, certain obligations have been satisfied. It's just better to turn around and tend to those things at that point. But remember that you've already spent the better part of your day working, and you have to rest in order to do it all again tomorrow. The weekends are actually a better choice than forcing a lot into your evenings when you need to recharge. Also, protect your energy in the evenings too. Honoring your routine from start to finish during the day helps you start, navigate through, and end your day positively. Thank you so much for taking a break with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to share and subscribe. If you'd like to support the Midday Reset podcast, please become a patron on Patreon at patreon.com/MDR. That's patreon.com/MDR. Take care, my friends, and I will see you next time.